True wrestling badasses are harder to come by today than ever before, but while guys and girls who evoke legendary hardmen like Haku and Harley Race are in short supply, they're very much still out there. Today, we're going to celebrate the tough, hard-nosed, uncompromising bruisers of the sport, because who doesn't love a good old-fashioned arse kicker? But before I begin, let me clarify that this is all based on how badass they come off on wrestling television, or in the flesh. A guy like Jack Gallagher is a real-life tough guy with MMA experience. He could beat almost anyone on this list in a real fight, but that isn't his wrestling character. He doesn't project tough guy qualities on screen, he doesn't play that role, so he isn't on the list. And there are plenty of other examples as well. So, now that we're clear, I'm Andy for What Culture Wrestling, and these are the 10 most badass wrestlers in the world today. Number 10. Jon Moxley. I've no idea how hard Jonathan Good is in real life, but his TV character is a complete and utter loon who throws people off giant poker chips, DDTs their goddamn heads through glass tables, and bites chunks out of their eyebrows, all without a single care for his own health and safety. So, yeah, he's pretty badass. The purveyor of violence rediscovered his badassery upon leaving WWE. He'd become a comedic shell of the man he once was in that promotion, but now, in AEW and New Japan, he's a wild, unpredictable chaos element. Moxley is a disruptor. That dangerous, dare I say, lunatic edge has returned to his work. It had been missing for years, and it's no surprise that Moxley is once again amongst the hottest names in wrestling now that it's back. Number 9. Shayna Baszler. While her dominance and gritty, unflashy wrestling style make Shayna a divisive figure among NXT fans, those traits are an important part of why she comes off as such a tough fighter. She's been NXT Women's Champion for well over 400 days, torturing opponents with a style owing as much to MMA and catch as it does pro wrestling. She uses arm stomps to snap limbs and sends challengers to the shadow realm with her Kirifuda clutch. It's never anything less than 100% convincing, and her matches look like real fights, not stunt shows. Some MMA fighters really struggle to project real threat in wrestling's fake world, but not Baszler. She has gone the other way, and today she actually feels more imposing as a wrestler than at any point in her MMA run. It's really something. Number 8. Nick Gage. Of all the people on this list, I think Nick Gage is the one I'd be most scared of fighting, because I'm not confident I wouldn't leave without losing a gallon of blood and with a light tube sticking out of the hole where my eye used to be. Gage is the king of modern American deathmatch wrestling. There's nothing fake about him either. All broken teeth, scars, and obscenities, the Gage that steps through the ropes is the same guy that was sentenced to 5 years for armed robbery in 2011, and that real-life reputation informs his work. He's a frightening dude, and he isn't playing a character, but an authentic version of his true self. He is an absolute god to a rabid deathmatch crowd that demands badassery. Number 7. Ronda Rousey. While Ronda Rousey's mask does slip when she's asked to cut long promos or do a bit of acting, calling her the baddest woman on the planet feels totally appropriate, and Angry Rousey is the most compelling Rousey. Her true pro wrestling badassery came out in the build to WrestleMania 35, though she demonstrated menace and toughness long before that. Of course, her in-ring work provides most of the reasons why she comes across as such a killer. Her armbar would immediately finish any main roster woman within seconds of a real fight breaking out. She scowls, she stomps, and she screams as well, and few feel as threatening when they're dialed in. I mean, just look at that frown, man. It's a thing of fear. Number 6. Pentagon Jr. There are definitely times when Penta plays up this Cerro Miedo thing a little bit too much, and his act starts veering towards hamminess. But none of that matters when he starts breaking arms and dropping dudes on their heads. The sadistic skeleton ninja has been a bad mother hubbard since Lucha Underground established him as a terrifying alpha demon in 2015. And that his aura is just as imposing today as it was back then speaks to his undying badassery. He looks like a comic book hellion, and he moves like one as well. Badass charisma leaks from every pore, and he wrestles like he's trying to kill his opponent, giving him the nasty, violent edge to not only break into our top 10 here, but trouble the top 5 as well. Number 5, Michael Walter. Walter. An old school wrestling ring general, Walter doesn't need to open his mouth to project badassery. His approach is simple but devastating. Suplexes send opponents flying across the canvas, body slams shake the ring and rattle its posts, and on the rare occasions he flies, Walter crushes. And then there are the chops. Designed to break flesh, bust ribs, and bruise spirits, they are disgusting. But this brutally straightforward offense is only part of what makes Walter so imposing. It's the way he carries himself that makes him seem so hard. This is a gruff, hard-nosed final boss figure who knows how to present himself as a commanding, intelligent Goliath. With Walter, a single stare conjures more just got real energy than most wrestlers could project with a bloody knife in their hand. He's really quite frightening. Number 4, Braun Strowman. It's true that WWE don't always present the monster among men in a flattering light, but nonetheless, Strowman at his most spectacular is a force unlike anything else in wrestling today, and a three-dimensional action movie monster who inspires fear and awe wherever he treads. Strowman was at his menacing best in 2017. He looked, moved, and carried himself like the most threatening thing in the promotion. He still does that today, but his presentation was a little bit more polished back then, and if I was making this list 2 years ago, he'd be a really strong contender for number 1. A gargantuan brute of inhuman strength, freakish athleticism, and a thick, booming voice, he's a meathead battering ram capable of crushing you with a single shoulder barge. He's also bloody massive as well, so, you know, there's that. Number 3. Minoru Suzuki. WWE might be looking to build Goldberg as wrestling's most badass old man, but New Japan's Minoru Suzuki has owned that lane in wrestling for years. Now these two 50-somethings express badassery in completely different ways. While Goldberg is very much still a shock and awe guy, Suzuki is a catch wrestling sadist. He doesn't just grab a limb to make you tap out, oh no. He does it to put you on the shelf, snapping tendons and stretching joints with malicious intent. When he slaps you, he does it to hurt and humiliate. And if you strike back, he'll probably just laugh in your face before hitting you so hard your soul leaves your body. In short, he's a bloody psychopath. There has never been a wrestler who has ever come across as mean as Suzuki, whose nickname, the man with the worst personality in the world, is entirely fitting. Minoru is a gnarled, ill-tempered mob boss who'll take teeth for his time if you waste it. And he still comes off like one of the baddest men alive, despite his 31 years in the game. Time has not yet exposed this near-mythical warrior's mortality. Number 2. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is the most credible fighter in American pro wrestling history. His college wrestling pedigree brought immediate legitimacy to the ring when he transitioned to sports entertainment in 2000. An NCAA Division I heavyweight champion, he trod a similar path in WWE, and then proved himself a massive draw in the UFC, where he struck gold in only his 3rd fight. Now, granted, he was eventually found out in fights with Cain Velasquez and Alistair Overeem, but name me one other guy who has attained such pedigree in 3 different combat sports. But none of this would matter if his badassery didn't translate to WWE's kayfabe world, but guess what? It does. The Beast Incarnate has always come across like a bad mother, and this has gone through the roof upon ascending to special attraction status. There's a different vibe when Lesnar walks into a room. He's one of the few larger-than-life presences left, and while fans understandably get tired of his part-time dominance, he's among the most convincing maulers ever. And number 1, Tama Hero Ishii. There are 2 areas in which Tama Hero Ishii is the best wrestler in the world. Number 1, selling, and number 2, projecting pure, unfiltered badassery. The first point informs the second. Being a badass isn't just about dishing out a beating, but taking one as well. It's the John McClane Die Hard thing. Ishii draws you into his struggle by wincing, grunting, groaning, and clinging on to a damaged limb like it's about to fall off. For his ability to endure ridiculous punishment but still get up, bark in his opponent's face, and kick their arse with hard-nosed defiance, he comes off tougher than a $1 steak. And that it takes an entire army's worth of force to put him down is just as terrifying. It's like hitting an indestructible zombie. Ishii is harder than granite. There's a reason Wrestling Observer readers have voted him the best brawler for 5 years running. Stiffness, grit, and nastiness mesh with a bruising, strong-style moveset to make him wrestling's one true bludgeon brother. It's a perfect cocktail of badassery that ensures his name is always mentioned in any credible best in the world discussion. So that's our list, but what do you guys think? Agree? Disagree? And who are your favourite wrestling badasses? Let us know down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And once you've done that, you can follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and myself, the real hardest man in wrestling, I guess, at Andy H. Murray. Goodbye.